Hi. So I have a tradition of telling really, really bad jokes to start off keynotes, but this year they're exceptionally bad. So I'm saving them for the Ask Me Anything booth later on. Come and find me in the booth, and if you really want to ask me anything, you can get a really bad joke in response. But first of all, I want to say welcome to everybody for the second annual AmpConf. I'm really excited to have everybody here in Amsterdam. We've never been here before. Last year was in New York. And also a big welcome to everybody on the live stream who's watching today, including my mom. So we're 2 years into building the AMP project, and we've made tremendous progress together. For example, now there are over 31 million domains on the internet publishing AMP, and they're published over 5 billion pages. This number's been growing a lot over the last year, and the types of publishers that have been making AMP pages have changed quite a bit since we launched. In fact, AMP is now used for recipes and travel and retail and dictionaries and Rap Genius and many other use cases. And in fact, over 60% of all the clicks to AMP pages from Google search go to non-news pages. So companies are investing in AMP and seeing great returns. In fact, we've asked Forrester to make a study on this topic, and to see what they've found is that publishers are seeing a doubling of time spent on their page with a 20% increase in conversion. That's a pretty impressive stat, and we think that these stats are showing this amazing momentum that we're seeing in the ecosystem. We're really excited to talk about what's going on today. We have an incredible lineup, including the man himself, Malte Ubel, who's the tech lead of AMP, and I'm really excited to pass it over to Malte now.
Thanks, Wes. Hi, everyone. Can you actually see me against the backdrop? It's like poor choice of shirt color. So yeah, my name is Malte, and I lead the engineering team working on AMP for Google. Today, I'm going to talk about several big efforts that my team and the wider community has been working on. And to kind of give you a little bit of an overview, most sections will kind of end in pointing to a talk that has the deeper dive on the topic, because obviously we're like the keynote and we're glossing over everything. So you do make sure to watch those talks. Cool. As the first thing, what I wanted to kind of talk about is AMP's vision as a project, which is to create a strong, user-first open web forever. And I really want to dwell on that user-first part. So what we're trying to do is kind of re-envision the web along that user-centered, user-focused kind of model, and it kind of really drives everything we do. We might not always get it right, so in that case, we really also ask you to call us out on it. On the other hand, we won't stop to challenge the status quo in terms of user-first principles. And I think there's one particular way in which AMP is different from other efforts along these lines, because we're not only trying to change 100 websites or 1,000 websites or 10,000 websites, right? Like our mission is really to make big chunks of the web more excellent. The way I call this is to commoditize excellence. So you really uplift large chunks of the web to a higher standard, right? And I think we've had pretty good success in the performance space, right? So Bess just said that we have over 5 billion AMP pages. And then looking at Google search, when people come from web to AMP pages, the load time we're seeing is consistently at the median under 1 second, right? So I think that's pretty good, and definitely an improvement over the web before AMP. But I'm also not standing here with a big mission accomplished banner. So I think there's a lot more we can do along this theme of commoditizing excellence. And the topic that I wanted to talk about first with this respect is content consumption, because it is changing over time, and people on mobile have different expectations for how content works, right? So they might only have 1 to 2 minutes, they want to snack, and that long-form article might not always be the right choice, right? And then, given this insight, we felt that it wasn't really that easy to publish content in a form that would actually, match that user need. And that's why we're introducing AMP stories. So you might have heard about this in the press before. I think the Wall Street Journal wrote about it a while ago. But now it's actually a thing. It's been coming together on the open source project. And today we're launching both a developer preview on AMP side, and there's going to be surfacing of these stories in Google search. To give you a little bit of an impression of what this actually is, let's take a look at this video. So with AMP Stories, you're getting rich visuals with native video. There's great support for animations with tappable interaction. It's very much designed mobile first, but it works remarkably well on desktop. And because it's just AMP, all the things you might already know and might expect still work. So for example, AMP Analytics is supported obviously right out of the box. And it's important as a technology for many groups. So for a user, what you're getting are these snackable, bite-sized pieces of visual content for your mobile device. As a publisher, you can focus on creating content while relying on the well-tested technology basis. And then finally, these stories are part of the open web. So they're linkable, shareable, and they're not locking you into any particular native app walled garden. They're just a web page. You publish them to your own web server, just like any other AMP document. And so today, we have the developer preview. There's the resources at ampproject.org/stories, and you can actually try it out in Google search by going to g.co/ampstories with these brands having created stories. This is just a short overview of what is to come. There's a talk right after this keynote by John and Eli. So definitely check that out if you want to learn more about AMP Stories. As the next topic, we're going to talk about what I think my team has spent the most time over the last year, which is e-commerce. And for that, please welcome on stage Lisa Wang, who's the product manager for e-commerce on the Google team.
Hi, I'm Lisa. I'm a product manager on AMP, and I lead our e-commerce initiatives. And to start, I actually want to reflect a little bit. So last year at AMPConf, we announced the launch of AMP Bind, which basically opened the door to building interactive experiences in AMP. So now, not only can you build a beautiful, user-friendly content page, you can also build a beautiful, user-friendly interactive experience. And today, I'm so excited to announce that AMP Bind is currently being used on over 150 million URLs and over 80,000 domains. And it's growing really strongly. So if you haven't yet, I encourage you to take the time to check out AMP Bind, see if you can build out the interactive experiences on your own site with it. And with the support of AMP Bind and the support for interactivity, we really believe that AMP is now ready for the full scope of e-commerce. So everything from retail to travel to classifieds to listings and more. But that's not to say that our job is done. So we're continuing to build out support for these new verticals. That demo that you see on the right here is of a date picker that we are working on to better support travel. And this recently went into experimentation, so if this is something that your site needs, please feel free to try it out and let us know your feedback. And we're seeing that sites are also continuing to push the boundaries of what's possible in AMP. So that middle demo is a product details page and add to cart experience that AliExpress built. And you can see that it's fully interactive, it's full of features, and it really just looks like any other web page. And the AMP team, we also continue to try and put ourselves in your shoes to make sure that building out experiences that we think can benefit from AMP is really as easy as we think it is. So that last demo there is some stress testing we were basically doing of testing out different payment providers and making sure it was really easy to integrate with an AMP form. And you can see the demo there. And for all three of these experiences and more, I'll go into the technical details tomorrow morning in my talk, 9 a.m., right back here, bright and early. So I'll see you then for that. And as we've moved our support into new verticals, we've seen that many of the top e-commerce brands across verticals and around the world have really embraced AMP. And for a lot of these brands, they started out by just building out their simpler landing pages or their content pages with AMP. But as they saw the immense return on investment they were getting, they've started to build out more and more pages in the funnel with AMP. So moving into the checkout flow and the payments flow, really trying to give their customers that end-to-end seamless and fast user experience. And so these are some of the logos of some of the top companies that have adopted AMP, and we really hope that next year we're able to see all of your logos up here as well. Now, of course, the best part about adopting AMP, aside from getting your logo on our slide once a year, is really the immense benefit that you can see to your revenue numbers. So a few quick examples here. WeGo is a travel aggregator that was able to see a 95% increase in their partner conversion rates by converting their landing pages to AMP. US Express is a shipping company that saw $1 million in yearly projected savings just by changing their recruitment pages to be built in AMP. And Event Ticket Center, which is a ticketing company, saw a 20% uplift in conversions over their responsive site, so over a site that was already optimized for mobile. And so we really believe that the value of AMP for e-commerce is really clear and really large, because if you can get your content in front of your users more quickly, they're more likely to engage with you and interact with you and hopefully make a purchase. Whereas if you stick them with a loading spinner and a blank screen, they're more than happy to jump to a competitor site and see if they can get what they need more quickly. Oh, I actually need to put on my Google hat now. It's not the great. We are obviously a tech company and not a hat company, but it's fine. Now I can officially speak on some of the cool stuff that Google is doing with AMP. So one of the biggest initiatives has been to expand AMP experiences from just organic to paid as well, to paid search as well. And last year, the AdWords team launched their AMP experience where clicking on ads will now lead you to AMP pages. And they're already seeing some really great success with this. So Merchology is a retail brand that when they did this, they saw that their AMP pages were 286% faster, and with that, they saw 39% higher conversions. So if you use AdWords and you have AMP pages, you should definitely take advantage of this. And if you use AdWords but you don't have AMP pages, this is probably a good time to check out AMP and see what it can do for your site. And if you're familiar with the shopping carousel on the search page, where you can swipe through products and basically browse through them, Google is also piloting serving AMP pages from here. And they're seeing some really encouraging results from this already. So if you're interested, please let your account team know that you want to participate in the pilot. Cool, I can get rid of this now. I want to take a quick minute to just talk about the best approach to building AMP pages. So when we first launched AMP, we provided a way for you to link your non-AMP page with your new AMP page. At that time, it didn't really make sense for you to switch completely over to AMP because the format was still new and it was still developing and we were still building out functionality. But now we've seen so much success with AMP and the functionality has grown so much that we feel confident in saying that AMP is the right core technology to build your site with. And we're already seeing this happen at scale, and not just with content sites, not just with publishing sites, but with e-commerce sites. So today, I'm so excited to announce that AliExpress, one of the largest e-commerce companies in the world, has gone all in on AMP. But you don't have to take my word for it. So we'll watch a quick video from their technical lead, Graham Locke, on why they decided to choose AMP.
Hi everyone, I'm Graham Locke, technical leader of the AliExpress mobile site. As a cross-border e-commerce player, AliExpress firmly believes that the mobile site is a key component of the global shopping experience. We constantly optimize our mobile site performance from PWA to AMP. In the past 2 months, we rebuilt our 4 main landing pages. We're using only AMP. We shortened at least 1 second in page load time, which is very exciting. Now we are getting closer to 2-second page load time globally. Why do we use only AMP? You ask me? I will just tell you it is unanimously agreed that faster loading speed will deliver better user experience. Alright? Rebuild our landing pages with only AMP was very challenging. We bumped into quite a lot of difficult situations, including the analytics of host rate, the colossal effect in an AMP list, the re-render of AMP page in AMP lightbox, the 2,000 binding issues of AMP bind. Well, the list goes on, but our solution was consistent. For every single issue we encountered, we just go straight forward to the program and cut it down. With the massive AMP components and general support from the AMP team, we made it. Our brand new mobile site was launched on January 22nd. At last, it's quite a pity that I can't join you, but I will wish you guys a good time in the second and biggest AMP conference, and long live AMP. Thank you. I will see you guys.
Thank you to Graham and the AliExpress team for joining us remotely. I just wanted to emphasize one thing that stuck with me as I watched this video, which was that going all in on AMP at AliExpress was a decision that was unanimously given the green light, because they believe, and we agree, that delivering pages faster to their users will lead to a better user experience. Now, if you do decide to go with this approach, which we're calling canonical AMP, traditionally there's been the challenge that serving AMP pages from your origin isn't as fast as serving them from the AMP cache. So I'm also really excited to announce today that we're releasing the AMP Toolbox Optimizer, which is basically a toolkit that developers can use to optimize AMP documents served from their origin. And right now it includes all of those performance optimizations that make delivery from the AMP cache really fast. And you can see that in this demo, the optimized Tasty page loads about 2 seconds faster than the regular AMP page. So the benefits of this can be really huge for your site. And we'll have more details on this in Abby and Andre's talk, using AMP as a library to build user-friendly sites later on today. And now I will pass it back to Malta to talk about ads and analytics.
Or, as I sometimes call it, something has to pay the bills. Because we all enjoy that free content on the internet, but it doesn't come out of thin air. Someone has to be make a living making that content. And while we're actually super big fans of alternative ways of monetizing content like subscriptions or micropayments, I think everyone realizes that ads, and especially display ads, do have to play at least some role in financing that content that we are looking for on the web. And coming back to that vision I outlined at the beginning of this keynote, of the web and re-expressed in terms of the user-first principle, I think everyone would admit that display ads on the internet aren't always the greatest user experience, right? And then lately I've seen headlines like this, right, where ads decided that maybe crypto mining on your machine is a great idea, right? And what we found is that the way ads work today on the internet, there's really nothing you can do at scale to prevent this. You can obviously audit things, and you can make sure you trust people, but there's nothing there that really helps you ensure that it's secure. So there's an architectural issue that the way the system works by injecting third-party JavaScript from random people, doesn't really produce great results at scale. And so we're on a mission to fix this. And because we're the AMP team, we also obviously want to make everything super fast along the way. And so I think that's a good summary of what AMP HTML ads are. They're a way to make fast and beautiful looking ads, but primarily they're just purely declarative, right? So there's no arbitrary JavaScript execution, and so stuff like Bitcoin mining or malware injection, etc., just isn't possible. And this has been a journey already for 1.5 years. We're pretty excited about it, and the first results are very excellent. So, for example, El País, it's a Spanish publisher. They were seeing a 90% reduction in ad latency and a 32% increase in click-through rate. And then Logic Ad, which is a Japanese demand-side ad platform, I think. We're seeing a 33% reduction in ad latency, and again, a 30% increase in click-through rate. So again, we've been on this for about 1.5 years, and it's a daunting project. Basically, all aspects of the entire advertising value chain, which is incredibly big, you wouldn't imagine, have to be updated to work inside of this new ecosystem. And one important part of that is that someone has to actually make these ad creatives, right? And so I'm very excited to announce that Google's tool for doing this, which is Google Web Designer, will add support for AMP HTML rich media ads in March of this year. Yeah, everyone's super excited. Yay, ads. Talking a little bit, switching gears from AMP HTML ads just to how AMP monetization with ads on AMP is going. So what we've been seeing over the last year is that publisher daily ad revenue has increased by 3x. And that is only actually the part of the statistic that we have access to as Google, right? So we looked at DoubleClick and AdSense. But what I think is really important is that there's a large and vibrant ecosystem of ad providers on AMP pages. So in fact, we've done some research, and we found that over 100 ad networks are actively monetizing on AMP pages. So if you've ever heard, you have to run Google Ads on AMP pages, totally not true, and also not what's actually happening in the wild. Another important way to look at it is obviously how much money am I making per page? It's a great study here from India today. They were actually seeing a 23% increase in revenue per page using fewer ads when comparing their AMP pages and non-AMP pages. Now, this might not be everyone's experience. You really have to optimize their experience to get the monetization results that you want. Going back to that 3x metric, where does it come from? Obviously, there's some elements that just the entire corpus and traffic to AMP pages has grown, but it's not all there is to it. So the AMP team, my team, has been working really hard in making things that are good for monetization be available in AMP, but along those user-first principles. So for example, one of the biggest things in AMP is that we don't want stuff to jump around while it's loading, right? And so multi-size ads is like the absolute opposite that you would ever want to do. However, we say if it's below the fold and it's happening before the user sees it, it's totally fine. So we've now enabled this in a way that's good for users. Single request architecture is a way to kind of make certain rate limitings work, etc. It's just there. Now you make more money. Great. There's fluid ads, auto refresh, and video ads. And then finally, a technology we call RTC, or real-time config. And that is actually something I want to dive a little bit deeper in there. You might even put like a hell freezing over slide here, because it's actually a first-class way to do header bidding in AMP in a way that does not impede user experience and in a way that does not expose the site to additional security holes. So this is something we really want to encourage you to try out. It's available today for DoubleClick for publishers, together with AppNexus as an ad bidding backend. And then finally, you can use it for other purposes like audience targeting and so forth. I'm actually not so much of an advertising expert, but the actual aspects are here tomorrow at 11 a.m. talking about how AMP is helping the open web stay sustainable. Cool. This is all I wanted to talk about on the ads side. For the analytics bit of this, I actually have more of a PSA. So I think many of you who have done some AMP development have found this to be true. It's pretty hard sometimes to track user journeys when going from your AMP pages to your non-AMP pages and back and forth. And there was actually a talk this year at AmpConf last year by eBay who really nicely expressed how they, in the end, got to make it work. But it's actually quite easy today. There is a fix for this, at least in Google Analytics. So you can take out your phone and take a picture of this link if you haven't actually installed this fix yet. It's something you have to opt in your site. And if you do it, suddenly your metrics become more correct. So I really encourage you to do this. Again, this is a Google Analytics specific thing. If you happen to work for a different analytics vendor, you can please come talk to us. You can use the same technology. And then also later this year, we're making the same underlying API available to all of you, so you can, for example, hook it up to your in-house analytics system. All right, everyone got the picture? It's the most exciting slide. Well, moving on from this topic, what I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the wider AMP ecosystem and the various facets around it. The first part of it are the platforms. So these are the websites and apps and web apps, etc., that drive traffic to your AMP pages. And obviously, we'd like to see more of them. So it's like the LinkedIns, the Bings, the Feedlys, the Flipboards, the Mediums, the Yahoos, the Pinterest, and so forth. And there's Google on there. We really like to see this grow year over year, because basically with every new logo, you get more traffic without doing anything. So it's great. There's actually one logo missing here. That's on the next slide. I'm particularly excited about that one, because it's an app that I happen to use quite a bit, sometimes 2 to 4 hours a day, I think, which is Twitter. They launched support for linking to AMP pages last year. And this is actually the first time that they are releasing statistics about it. So what they were seeing is a 10% reduction in page load abandonment when comparing AMP pages to non-AMP pages. What does it mean for you? Basically, this metric has dramatic impact on all downstream metrics. So if you, for example, want to optimize time on site or conversion rates, obviously those will not be great if someone never actually manages to load your page but abandons it right away, right? So I think it's a very impressive metric. Moving on from the platforms, the next important aspect of the AMP ecosystem are the CMSs. Right? And I think we've been seeing a healthy CMS ecosystem develop over the last years. This is particularly true, obviously, in publishing, and I think the newest trend is that the e-commerce CMSs, shopping platforms, etc., are moving into AMP support. So it's great to see Magento and BigCommerce on board. One particular topic I wanted to spend some time on, though, is WordPress. They were one of the earliest partners on the AMP page, AMP project. In fact, when basically we first launched, there was one of the easiest way to get AMP support was to install the AMP plugin. And being very early, it had some limitations, which I think is to be expected. But there has been really nice momentum going months over months of improvements of this plugin. So there's now support for pages, widgets, custom post types, and all kinds of standard embeds, as well as direct integration in the standard templating system. And there's monthly releases, so this is getting better all the time. In fact, we have here today a video from Matt Mullenweg, who is the creator of WordPress and the CEO of Automattic, talking about how AMP and the WordPress ecosystem are working together. Can we roll the video? By the way, he's on vacation.
Matt Mullenweg.
So thank for him for
our focus has always been on the user. That's why we've been committed to providing support for AMP from the project's inception. We believe enabling everyone to create content on the open web in a fast and accessible way is key to both users and our business. Recently, we've doubled down on our commitment to what AMP is doing, working with the folks on the AMP and XWP teams on enhancing our capabilities of our AMP plugin so that supports rich and immersive AMP experiences in WordPress. We're also working with the AMP project to support Gutenberg, WordPress's newest creation and publishing experience, so that authors on WordPress can provide their readers with fast and beautiful content designed to fit their needs and build natively on Gutenberg. We imagine a plausible future where potentially every theme is effectively built on AMP design principles. Our work ultimately revolves around the user and content creators, which is why we identify strongly with the AMP project and its mission. Well, unfortunately, I'm not able to be with you all today. We're all excited about WordPress's future and our ongoing commitment to AMP. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so he is actually on like some tropical island and made this video, so really appreciate it. Yeah, so it's great to see that progress on that front. There's one other aspect of the ecosystem I want to talk about, which is super important, which is the feedback the community has been giving about AMP. And there's been one particular topic that people are pretty passionate about. There's been a couple tweets over the years that people aren't like the biggest fans of the AMP URLs, the google.com/AMP. And the thing is that we actually totally agree. I think we talked about why it's there for privacy preserving, pre-rendering, and respective good performance. And the thing is that we've always said we need it for technical reasons. When those technical reasons are removed, we could get rid of it. And so we're super excited that there's a new technology that came out about a year ago as a new web standard called web packaging, which happens to be absolutely the perfect fit to enable the same kind of privacy-preserving pre-rendering that AMP provides in a way that preserves the actual origin of the content. And so with that, we are excited that we can get rid of the URL prefix. We announced this in January this year, that we're working on this, right? So there has been some significant progress. The Chrome team has sent their intent to implement, which means they've officially started the implementation. And my team has been starting to work on actually serving this content. So we'll keep you posted on the progress, but it's going to be a bit of a road. In fact, the Chrome and the AMP team have been working together on quite a few initiatives, basically along the lines of saying, AMP got a few things right. Why don't we make those available to the wider web platform? To learn more about that, check out the talk today at 3:15, where the Chrome team is talking about how they work together with us to make the web better. All right. The last aspect of the AMP ecosystem I wanted to touch on is the AMP GitHub community. And I thought that given that it's like Valentine's Day tomorrow, it's appropriate to put a few hearts on the slide, because we really have to thank all of you who help us build AMP. I have my team working full-time on AMP, which does not have come as far without the tremendous support, both in terms of code, filing issues, etc. Right? It's just incredibly important, and so thank you very much. I wanted to give a bit of statistics about how that's actually going. So there's now over 560 unique contributors across all our open source projects, and I've been asked like how many of them work for Google. It's actually 22%, which I actually think is incredibly high. So there's apparently over 100 Google employees who've changed code in AMP. I don't know them all by name for sure, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, so definitely 78% of contributors don't work for Google. However, obviously, like my team is full-time, so they write the majority of the code, so about 90% of the code. This is something I think we're like both proud of, but we also would like this to extend the contribution from non-Google contributors. And we're doing a few things to help with that. So one of them is that we have a weekly hangout. So if you have any idea of a change you want to propose to AMP, you can file that in the GitHub issue and say, hey, I would like to talk to this, and then join us on the hangout. We've actually recently changed this in terms of timing. So on a week-by-week basis, it changes the time so that if you previously thought, like, I really would like to join it, but it's at 3 a.m., you can now possibly actually join it because there will be one time where it's actually in your time zone. If you're interested in contributing to AMP, please check out the talk tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. That goes deep into what you can do and how it's easy to get started. All right, that was all I wanted to talk about in terms of ecosystem and almost everything in general, but there is actually one more thing. I think we've talked about how the AMP ecosystem is evolving and how it's evolving on the web. But I would say there's like a, possibly a way to kind of push the envelope, if you want to put it that way. Give you a bit of a history lesson, actually. The original code name for this project was Portable Content Unit, short PCU. And the idea was basically that you could have publish a piece of content and control how it's styled, branded, monetized, but then allow the platforms across the web and apps to distribute it for you. And I think it was a great idea. The implementation is fine, and it's working well like in search engines like Google or in Twitter and so forth. But I think we've only kind of scratched the surface, because content is not only distributed in websites or in apps, right? There's at least one other way to do it. And in fact, that one is happening 270 billion times a day. That is the number of emails that are sent today. And with that, I'm super excited to announce that AMP is in fact coming to email. To learn more about what this means, please welcome on stage Akash Saini, who's the product manager on Gmail. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Malta. My name is Akash Sani. I'm a product manager on the Gmail team at Google. So AMP is coming to email. Sounds cool, but what exactly does that mean? So with AMP in email, you can now include AMP components inside of your email messages across all platforms. We're really, really excited about the possibilities here. You'll be able to send more interactive and engaging and actionable emails than ever before. Your messages can include many of the AMP components that you know and love, like carousels and accordions. They can even update using data from external services with features like AMP Bind and AMP List. So I'll give you a couple examples of what you can actually do inside of AMP-based emails that we're really excited about, but we're really excited to see what you build as well. So imagine that you could complete tasks directly inside of your email. So with AMP for email, users can quickly take actions on things like RSVPing to an event, scheduling an appointment, or answering a questionnaire right directly from their email. Emails can even be kept up to date so that when you open a news update like this one, you can see the latest articles, weather, and stock prices right there in your inbox. So as we've heard today, AMP started as a tool for publishers to build very fast-loading mobile web pages, but it's evolved a lot over the last several years, or I guess the last couple of years. And it's now one of the best ways to build all kinds of more general web pages. So we're really excited about the flexibility and the power of AMP and the opportunity that it presents inside of email. So today, we're publishing a proposed spec for AMP in email that you can find on the AMP project's GitHub page. And we're also announcing a developer preview inside of Gmail, and we're inviting signups starting today. We're planning to launch this to Gmail users later this year. So with the developer preview, you'll be able to start building and testing your own emails inside of Gmail and send them out to users later this year. We have a lot more to tell you about how this all works and some really exciting demos to share. So please join me at 2 p.m. today for a talk to go into more detail and learn more. Thanks very much.
That was cool. to do now is kind of wrap up. We learned today about AMP stories, how AMP is ready for e-commerce, that you can have success with ads and AMP, the growth of the AMP ecosystem and community, and then finally that AMP is coming to email. Please all join us in building the user-first web. Thank you very much. You have 2 exciting days ahead of you. Thank you everybody for watching on the live stream, and don't forget to subscribe.